All right, everyone, it is here. It is time. It is a rising storm night on the Living Force. No more intro needed. Punch it!
Fuck, Aaron. Here we go.
What is up, everyone? Welcome into the Living Force, a UTD Network podcast tonight, all about Cavan Scott's The Rising Storm. I'm one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight in a little less High Republic apparel is the full crew, starting with master of the I finished this book last night, Dr. Corey Helton.
That is me, bro. I was so far behind in this book, and I read it. I read the whole book in like 6 hours. Believe it or not, I did. I sent an apology yesterday to the guys because it's just been a hellacious 6 weeks of night shift and awfulness, and then I had a crazy weird weekend for my wife's birthday. And I was like, guys, I'm not going to finish the book in time. And they were like, oh, it's okay. We understand. And then I was like, I guilted myself into it. So I sat down right then and I didn't stop it until I finished the book at like 2 a.m. So here we are. I'm ready for the show, baby.
That's the key with Corey, y'all. You can never guilt him into doing something. Just accept it so he feels bad enough to make himself do it.
That's right.
But you know who did finish it last night? Who finished just a while ago because he has been writing the tome of notes we will be using tonight is Dr. Charles Obi-Wan Standy Hankel.
Yes, it is something that I have been spending a lot of time on. You might notice slightly different background behind me. I moved this weekend, but I don't yet have new internet at my new apartment. So I came back here tonight where I still have internet. I brought a chair, the one piece of furniture that is left in the apartment. It's me, it's Obi-Wan, we're ready.
I'm so ready. The only person slightly maybe more ready than that is the glorious, the luminous, the also finished the book yesterday, Wes Jenkins.
Good evening, everyone. I flipped back and forth from audio version to reading because I figured out that I could actually make food and do chores while listening to the audiobook instead of just sitting there in silence like a weirdo. So hey, I finished it.
I love the back and forth read. Anyone that has an Audible subscription and also buys the physical books, it's seriously a great way to read and reread as well if you're doing it multiple times. But that's us, everyone. We are so glad you're here. We already have a vibrant chat room going. Hey to all of you, welcome into this roundtable / therapy session, about this book. I'm going to say it right here before we say anything else. This will be a full spoiler show for Cavan Scott's The Rising Storm. If you have not read this book, do not listen to this episode. That's bad business for us. I get that. But for real, stop. Take the 6 hours / 2 months / however long it takes you to read this book, then come back because you don't want the end to be ruined. I did it once. That's what you all get. So before we get into that, though, as quickly as possible, a couple announcements. Number one, 2 weeks from tonight, we will be doing an all-question show. Our roundtable will be 2 parts tonight and next week. But after that, we just want to answer your questions. We want to have a nice, easy, fun show after what I'm sure will be very depressing next week. So be sure to go to our Living Force Discord channel. Be sure to hit us up on Twitter. However you can get in contact with us personally or through the show, send us questions. Any Star Wars questions you want about books, about the films, about characters, whatever it is. We want to have fun based on what you want to hear. As for our favorite things, whatever you want, hit us up 2 weeks from tonight. Other than that, we want to highlight our Patreon community because, oh my gosh, this was a great week for our Patreon. We want to say thank you to all of you who support us at patreon.com/utini. You are the reason why we're able to put all this content out. And we want to thank 3 new patrons, including Brian Dooley and Tanner Lund, who joined monthly, and OK Endar, our chat usual, who became a member of our Jedi High Council, who's literally going to help steer the direction of this show. So thank you all for this. We love it. The support is amazing, and we hope you enjoy all the extra content, the extra Discord channels that you get. And if you want to help us out and join our trivia night, which, boys, by the way, is 3 weeks from Friday, heads up, we are going to be doing another live Patreon event on August 20th. You have plenty of time to head over to patreon.com/Utini. Check out all the good stuff you can get there. And we have a patron of the week. Hit that video. Go! Go!
Hi, my name is Dave. Many of you might know me as Moonflower on the Discord. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. And my earliest memories of Star Wars go back all the way to the early 80s when I was playing with my Dagobah playset and some of the old vintage action figures. And I got to see Return of the Jedi when I was 6 in the theater, so that was really exciting. I got into the EU with Heir to the Empire when it came out in 1991, but I think my favorite collection of books is the X-Wing series from Rogue Squadron and Wraith Squadron with Wedge and some of the cast of characters that they built around him. It's just really fun and exciting. I found Utini a few months ago when my son asked me a question and I looked something up online, and I started getting into the reading order and looking through that and getting into the books and catching up on the podcast and YouTube. And I really enjoyed all the content that you've been putting out, so I decided to become a patron and support the great creators that you have on staff. So great job, guys. My question for you is, what is your favorite track from John Williams? He's put out so many great tracks, it's hard to pick out a best. The original trilogy has so many that I love, but I was really excited when The Force Awakens came out, and the scavenger theme I really fell in love with. That's Rey's theme. And it was just great to see that John Williams could still knock it out of the park after so many years and so many great soundtracks. So I'll really miss him on future movies, but I think there's a great cast of new composers that they've been starting to put together on future projects. So what's your top track?
Ooh, man. Great question. First of all, Dave, thank you, man, for your support. Dave, Moonflyer, as you said, has been super active all over the Discord, all over the YouTubes. That's the plural. That's a Midwest way of saying like Walmarts and Myers. From a Michigan people. We've loved seeing you around here. Myers, yeah, it's like Walmart, but like red. I don't know. But that's a great question. Your favorite John Williams track? We've talked a decent amount about Williams on here, of course. Yeah. But boys, what's the track maybe we haven't talked about in the past that you've been like listened to recently? That's really getting you going. Mine is also from Force Awakens. I'm gonna take Dave's lead there. March of the Resistance, when the X-Wings go over the water, going to Maz's castle and talking about
yes.
That gets me freaking hyped. That is like bum ba-da-dum, bum ba-da-bum ba-da-ba-da-bum, bum bum. Like I love it. It goes like that.
Excellent. I mean, listen, I love the classics, right? Binary Sunset is just,
it's perfect.
I can't hear that riff from Binary Sunset without getting like emotional inside. I can't. It's just so good. But I tell you, recently it kind of came up on Bad Batch because they played Princess Leia's theme kind of ish sort of for Hera.
For Hera, right.
Yes, and I was like, dude, so that like put me in a mood for that. So that's fantastic too. Williams is a flipping genius. He really is. Like,
yeah, real good. Composing.
He's good.
West Charles, what are you guys?
So yeah, I was gonna say Rey's theme. Rey's theme is my absolute favorite, especially when they're on Octo 2. I mean, when they're on in The Force Awakens. But one of my second favorite is the Jedi Temple March, which is when Anakin is leading the clone troopers up the steps.
Right.
When he's about to kill everybody inside. Yeah. Super dark, but also an awesome track. So that's something.
Yes.
Definitely, I listen to that sometimes when I work out. Not gonna lie.
It's like, dude, Master Skywalker's gonna kill us, but this beat is pretty good.
I think I'm gonna stay on brand. Also, there's someone behind me that's looming over me threateningly, and I'm gonna say Battle of the Heroes is like my go-to.
Blind Fate's in the chat, man.
Did
Got
Blind Fate sit?
Yep. Battle of the Heroes.
Battle of the Heroes for sure, but like, I'm gonna say, dude, sleeper pick the Cantina song. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Oh
That
my
sounds
god.
fun.
Listen, funny story. I'm not sure if I've ever told you guys this. When I was an RA in college, I was an RA for the last 2 years of college, and one of my other buddies.
You were a cop in college? That's what
I was a drug busting apartment cop. We would do rounds several times a night where you had to walk through the whole building and make sure nobody was dead in the halls, and I would literally play the Cantina song like the whole time, like just on my like a boombox or something, like a friggin' so stupid. Just walk around, and people are like, "Oh, you're so lame." I'm like, "Shut up, freshman." That's how it was.
Freshman, put a towel under your door, you rookies.
Exactly.
My buddy, after he got married, his wife had put his new wife they did the Cantina song as they're walking out.
Excellent.
And he didn't know it, so it was like
great.
a surprise to him. It's pretty
That's
cool.
amazing.
Oh, so much just incredible music. Obviously, the chat already blowing up with so much love for Williams. The Force Awakens trailer theme, Here They Come from A New Hope. The first minute of The Rise of Skywalker, absolutely, like,
Dale.
love you. Love you, Williams.
Dude. It doesn't work well in text.
It doesn't quite. Oh, but thank you for that. And of course, if you want to be one of our patrons of the week and ask us that question, like I said, in 2 weeks, you get a little cheat. Because anyone can ask us questions in 2 weeks. But join up our Patreon, get some cool content, and we'll see if you can be on the show as well. All right, time for our really, really super brief but really important Star Wars Weekly Roundup. Hit that graphic! Go!
The Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
All right, the hype of that transition is worth it because, y'all, we don't do these on roundtables, but the only thing that can make us do one is the literal announcement we got on Friday at the Comic-Con High Republic panel because, y'all, Wave 3 is coming. And we have titles of books. Put that graphic up here. Wave 3, The Light of the Jedi, goes dark because apparently it's not dark yet, which is horrifying.
Right.
But the upcoming books, if you all missed this announcement, the Del Rey adult quote-unquote novel will be The Fallen Star by Claudia Gray. The young adult novel will be Midnight Horizon by Daniel Jose Older. The middle grade novel will be Mission to Disaster by Justina Ireland, which sounds just ominous. And Charles Soule is going back to comics and Marvel, as he's doing with War of the Bounty Hunters, to do a 2-part series called Eye of the Storm. That's right, baby. It's the Marchion Rowe comic book. Yeah, guys, this is amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of called this, but we're getting a freaking Claudia Gray adult novel.
I know. And also, can we just say this is Wave 3 of Phase 1.
One.
Like,
Yeah, there are 3 phases.
Holy crap!
Like, I think it's going to be 3 trilogies. I think that's what they're doing. It's very Star Wars, right? 3 waves in 3 phases.
In 3
and now
years?
they're like,
is that what the timeline looks like?
I think it's like 3 to 5,
3 to
something
4?
like that.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, this is January, so a little bit of a break, quote unquote.
Break.
But like, yeah, were you guys? Because we discussed this briefly. That like we kind of assumed Claudia would be the next adult novel. She kind of hadn't done one yet, and it seemed to be in her wheelhouse. Did any of these especially surprise you guys, or did any of them? Does any title like stand out to you especially?
The Marchion Rowe comic, dude. I'm so ready for that. That sounds like I don't know. They've done a great job of building him up in his other content, right? So man, I'm so jacked for that. That's gonna be fun.
I think that's the most surprising. The title that stands out, though, The Fallen Star. Because
Fallen Star for
it
sure.
might be the Fallen Star Light Beacon, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh,
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking, but I'm also like, is it too obvious? But then it's double psychology. Like it's too obvious, so it's not obvious, so it's a surprising.
Only a fool.
Maybe it's referring to a Jedi.
I also 100%, especially in Claudia's wheelhouse.
Yes, exactly. That sounds fantastic.
You want to talk about weird Force stuff? I can't wait.
Or an actor just falls out of the liking from people.
That could also be good. That'd be
possible.
That's how they end it. I also want to say, I think Corey, you might have said it when we heard it. Midnight Horizon sounds like an awesome ship name. That maybe it's just like a cool ship that Daniel Jose Older's doing. But these are all coming in January, and y'all, of course, where can you find pre-order links when they drop at the Utini release schedule. Fallen Star I know is already up. I don't know if the rest are yet. You can make sure you get those pre-orders in. And if you are someone that hasn't yet picked up their copy of The Rising Storm, or you only have one and want a cooler version, Wes, how can just being in the Utini community get you a free copy of maybe the coolest book cover in the history of the world?
All right, so let me tell you, we are going to do a contest for the out-of-print version of The Rising Storm. Eric, you have that handy?
Yes,
You
I
can
do.
show people. So
There
this
it is.
what
And the tote bag.
and the tote bag. So it comes with a tote bag that's the same as the cover. And when you open up the cover, it has on the front and back, it's just one perfect silhouette of a battle scene. It's great. So in order to be eligible for the giveaway, you have to follow us on YouTube, follow us on Twitter, and follow us on Instagram.
Instagram.
Snap, smash.
The last stipulation is leave a comment below in either this episode or next week's episode of why you like the book, why you don't like the book, why you like the High Republic, what you're looking forward to in the High Republic, anything. So I'm going to cross-check all this in Microsoft Excel, have you, and I will pick one winner. One winner. We'll give you 2 weeks time, so it's probably going to end next Sunday. So we'll give you 2 weeks. And then I will pick one winner, or we'll pick one winner, but I'll pick it because it's on my Microsoft Excel worksheet. And then we will announce that. We will announce that in 3 weeks on the Living Force.
Also, Wes, a good question from the chat. Do people like to follow the Utini Twitter or the Living Force Twitter? Because Utini is on Instagram, Living Force is not, but on Twitter we do have both.
That's true. So you got to follow both. How about
Bam!
that? You got to follow Utini and the Living Force. And then follow Utini on Instagram, follow Utini on
Twitter,
YouTube.
Everywhere.
YouTube, that's it.
Give us metrics, people.
That's it. No, we will be very straightforward. It's a great way to pump our metrics, but it's also a wonderful way to get you, like, this book cover. I'm still astounded that they made it. The full wraparound's incredible. And this tote bag, hold on. This tote bag is like canvas level, like, quality. It's not like the ones they had at Celebration a little while ago were like fine, but they were a little like loud. This is like really, let's see, can we ASMR this? Oh no, that did anything.
It did. How much was this too, actually? How much was it?
I think it retailed for 50 and then shipping.
$50-$60. And
So get it for free.
I got it in. It's in my home. It's wrapped in the original bubble wrap that it came in.
That's
and
right.
The book and the tote is still in the plastic. I have not touched it. So it's coming to you untouched.
If you want Wes to touch it, that costs extra follows. All right.
It's also true.
For $20 more, we'll include bathwater. All right, moving on.
And Jacob is lovingly putting links in the live chat for those of you here right now.
Yes,
and
nice,
of course,
Jacob.
other than that book, we want to remind you real quick that tomorrow, this lovely book, Out of the Shadows by Justine Ireland, releases tomorrow. I know a lot of people already have it pre-ordered. It's been showing up at random Targets and stuff over the past week, which is cool. Our channel has been full of people reading it and experiencing it, but make sure, even though we're talking about Rising Storm tonight, keep the High Republic love going. Get those week one sales on the New York Times bestseller list where all these books belong. Pick up Out of the Shadows tomorrow.
Do we know if there are any variant covers for Out of the Shadows?
Yes, we do, Wes. There is a Target variant that is on the way to my apartment now, and there's a Walmart variant that has not shipped yet, but that's only for me. There are 3 total covers for it, and if you check out utini.com tomorrow for our full-length written review and video review, but the written review will have all 3 covers in it, so you can check them out and see which ones you want to buy. Perfect. I love the High Republic. Costs a lot of my paychecks, but it gives me a lot of love. All right, everyone, we're going to take now a quick break, and then Charles is going to bring us back, and we can dive into the glory, the epicness, and the dark depression of The Rising Storm. Be back. great. All right. Let's go right into it, everyone. Final spoiler warning. The Rising Storm by Cavan Scott will be spoiled here, but we're going to dive into it. We're going to talk about some characters. Charles, in your only piece of furniture chair, take it away.
All right, here we go. So we're going to start off this roundtable, how we do all the others, with an in-detail plot synopsis. So without further ado, here we go. Though it's been almost a year since the dedication of Starlight Beacon, Elzar Mann is still haunted by his vision of death and destruction. Determined to discover its meaning, he throws himself into a near-death experience in the roiling seas of Ashla and is rewarded by the Force with one word, Valo. Across the galaxy, Markian Ro travels to Rystan with Udi Dis, a Force-sensitive Talar-Tai, to discover something from Ro's past that he believes will help the Now defeat the Jedi. After facing down an ancient creature guarding a shrine, they find their prize encased in ice, but something is very wrong. Dis can't seem to feel his connection to the Force and is quickly cut down by several guard droids. Ro, however, seems pleased. Elsewhere, Ty Yorick, ex-Jedi and current monster hunter, is keeping herself busy dealing with some Drengir, but quickly gets pulled into a job acting as a bodyguard for an inventor named Mantessa, looking to sell her work to a contact who will be at the Republic Fair. Deep in the Cyclor shipyards, Belzettifar is still deeply impacted by the loss of his master, Loden Greatstorm, but admirably tends to his latest assignment with his new master, Indira Stokes, waiting to accompany a state-of-the-art ship, the Innovator, to Valo for display at the fair. However, a Nihil cloud suddenly appears in the shipyards, intent on destroying the Innovator before it ever makes its journey. Bel valiantly fights off the Nihil, but shockingly, a harpoon rips through his cockpit and lodges into his abdomen, leaving him mere inches from certain death. Along with Master Stokes, he's somehow able to free himself from the Nihil ship and destroy it in the process, thereby saving the Innovator, but maybe not himself. Stellan Gios, newly appointed member of the Jedi Council, escorts Chancellor Lena So through hyperspace along with Ril Dairo, a reporter who has been given exclusive behind-the-scenes coverage for the fair. Word reaches them of the attack at Cyclor, and before long, Senator Toon, an outspoken member of the Senate, reaches out with a grave warning that the fair should be called off if the Republic can't protect itself. On Valo, Elzar Mann oversees the final preparations for the fair. He's become quite comfortable with being the Jedi Marshal of Valo over the past few months, and even more comfortable with his coordinator, Samara Raun. Despite the stressors of hosting such a massive event, things have been going very well. So well, in fact, that he thinks he may have actually managed to avoid the events of his horrible vision. On the rain-soaked planet Grizal, the Nihil's main force lies in wait. The Tempest Runners, Pan Ada, Lorna D, and the relatively new appointed Zetar are all assembled. Pan is blamed for the failed attack at Cyclor and very nearly electrocuted by Markian Ro, but the other Tempest Runners save him. Afterwards, Pan shares that he learned how Ro obtains the Nihil's paths from Udi Dis before his death. He knows about Marie Santeca. The Tempest Runners agree that Ro has become a liability and that they intend to take him down.
All right, Stellan and his entourage arrive on Valo, where he meets up with Elzar, one of his oldest friends. But Stellan is worried by the deep emotions he's sensing in Elzar, especially when he finds out that Avar Kriss isn't coming to the fair. Back on Gritzel, Ro works closely with Dr. Uderson. I'm butchering all these names. I didn't listen to the audiobook this time, but that's okay.
I love that.
Ro works closely with Dr. Uderson to continue their torturous study of Loden Greatstorm, but their work is disrupted with Pan Ada openly challenges Ro, backed by a growing group of Nihil, becoming more and more frustrated by Ro's secrets. However, Ro is just barely able to maintain control by revealing their next mission and their new call to action. Death to the Chancellor, death to So. The Republic Fair's opening ceremony commences, but the show is stolen by the surprise arrival of the Togrutas and their leader, Regasa. I don't even know how to say these at all. Regasa
Alaric Yoet.
Yes. Okay. Despite the Togrutas' shaky relationship with the Republic, they have accepted Lena So's invitation. There are other notable arrivals to Valo, including Ty Yorick and Belzettifar, who managed to survive his near-death experience thanks to one of the earliest back to Soaks. Elzar, Stellan, and Bell sense a disturbance and quickly stumble upon Ty Yorick and Mantessa meeting with Senator Toon, attempting to sell the inventor's illegal Ricanium device, which she touts as a way to defeat the Jedi. The Jedi spring into action, and a lightsaber duel ensues, where Ty almost stabs Elzar Mann through the chest, but not before her lightsaber is deactivated by the Ricanium device. Ty offers no answers as to how she obtained her skills with the saber, and she's quickly hauled off to jail. Emotions run high in the wake of the opening ceremony and lightsaber duel, and Elzar Mann finds himself crossing a line and spending a night with Samara. The following morning, Stellan is frustrated that small matters keep going awry. Elzar is missing, the Chancellor's son has run off, and yet those small inconveniences fade into the background with the ship waiting in line to enter the fair suddenly explodes. Moments later, the sky is filled with Nihil ships descending on Valo. As the attack on Valo commences, death comes swiftly. Noxious gases fill the air, and Nihil raiders plunder and murder their way through the Republic Fair. Stellan Gios finds himself in charge of protecting a party, including Chancellor So and the Regassa. Bel Zedavar and Ember race to save the Chancellor's missing son, where he was last seen aboard the sinking Innovator. Ty Yorick is able to escape from jail. Elzar Mann finds himself overwhelmed by the atrocities before him. In a fit of rage, he taps into the dark side, unleashes a massive wave of destruction felt by the Jedi across the fair. With the assistance of Master Orbelin, Real Dyro is able to overcome the Nihil's communications jam and get a message off-planet pleading for assistance. Elzar Mann stumbles upon Ty Yorick, and the two must work together to fight off some of the escaped predators from the Valo Zoo. Using a mind-linking technique, they're able to tame the Sandville's monstrous, dragon-like creatures and use them as mounts to join the fight in the air. But their glimpse into each other's minds reveal that they may have much more in common than anticipated. Lorna D and her henchmen find Stellan's party and desperately attempt to assassinate the Chancellor. Stellan is able to hold them off temporarily, but suddenly Pan Eta, intent on further destruction, begins bombarding Valo from space. Ordnance strikes near Stellan, gravely injuring Chancellor So.
All right, thanks to the message from Real Dyro, the Togruta military arrives to Valo and chases off what remains of the Nihil forces, putting an end to one of the darkest days in Republic history. On Grizal, Pan Eta flaunts his success among the celebrating Nihil, but Marchion Ro grows increasingly wary of Pan's influence and poisons him. Though Pan is once again about to die at the hand of the Eye of the Nihil, Lorna D once again saves him. Together they plot to attack the Republic again against the wishes of Ro. At the Valo Temple outpost, Lena So has miraculously survived, though not medically or emotionally unscathed. She blames her own hubris for the Nihil attack and pleads with Stellan to bring an end to them. Luckily, the Regassa was deeply impressed with Chancellor So's bravery at the fair and pledges the Togruta's ongoing cooperation in fighting the Nihil. The Jedi allow one of Lorna D's captured henchmen, Amarant, to escape from the temple in hopes he will lead them back to the Nihil stronghold, though he unexpectedly takes Mantessa's daughter, Clarin, as a hostage. Amarant steals the ship, but doesn't realize that Bel Zedavar and Indira Stokes are hidden aboard. Pan Eta launches yet another attack on the Cyclor shipyards, but the majority of his Tempest abandons him. He has been tricked by Lorna D. Rather than die with his only loyal followers, Pan uses a secret escape pod heading back to his home planet to plot his revenge. Bel and Indira arrive on Grizal and signal the rest of the Jedi, including Elzar Mann, Ty Yorick, and Stellan Gios. Clarin reveals that she was the true inventor of the Ricanium device capable of rendering lightsabers useless and offers it up to the Nihil for payment. Loden Greatstorm senses Bel's arrival on Grizal and, through sheer determination, manages to escape the torture chamber aboard the Gaze Electric. He is urged on by a voice in his head that he only identifies once he stumbles upon Marie Santeca and her stasis chamber. Bel also senses his old master and desperately tries to reach him. Loden narrowly escapes Marchion Ro and, against impossible odds, is once again reunited with his Padawan. Infuriated, Marchion Ro decides it's time to unleash the ancient power that he brought back from Rystan. He connects the pieces of his strange device and summons the Leveler from the depths of his ship. As the Leveler is unleashed, Elzar is racked by another vision and crashes his vector. As Loden and Bel valiantly continue their fight, the Leveler attacks them. Bel is overwhelmed by a potent sense of dread, and despite reaching out to the Force to fight back, he can't find it. Ro recalls the Leveler and escapes aboard his ship with the rest of the fleeing Nihil forces, including Lorna D. Stellan pulls Elzar from the wreckage of his vector. Elzar offers a grave warning. They're coming, Stellan. They're coming, and we can't stop them. Indira calls Stellan to the aid of Bel and Loden. Stellan approaches and finds Bel curled in a ball, sobbing, seemingly on the brink of insanity. Next to him is a petrified husk that is all that remains of Loden Greatstorm. Upon approaching, Greatstorm's body crumbles into dust, and Stellan is overcome with an unsettling fear unlike any he has ever known.
And they all lived happily ever after.
So that's what happens in this book. It all makes sense now.
So before you say anything, Charles, I try to say this every round table. Y'all, Charles just wrote that. everything we said word for word, that's pure Charles writing
It's like
it.
3 pages.
It's incredible.
It is longer.
I'm already so sad.
It is longer than any chapter in this book. That plot summary.
All right, so I had to give you props. Oh my God,
Thank you.
Well done.
So
well done,
let's-
Charles.
Thank you very much. Let's rate this book on a 1 to 10, and you can give me a brief reason why. No longer than 30 seconds, Corey.
Briefly, 30 seconds. I will give this book a 9.2. Even with having read it so utterly fast, like,
Wow.
yeah, it was really, really good. I mean, it was easy to like. It was easy to get through quickly just because it was so good. I mean, I didn't want to put it down last night. I was totally planning on getting up this morning and reading it, and I couldn't put it down. It was too good. I loved it.
Love it. Okay, 9.2 from Corey. Eric, what do you think?
I think I'll go like 9.7 on this one. I was. It's weird. It is hard for me not to give it a 10, but you know what? Like I'm like, okay, let's start somewhere. I have thought about this book after reading it so many times, and I think that speaks a lot to the quality of a book, at least for me. I love these characters. I mean, I bought a shirt of the book. I'm buying 4 copies of this book. Like, I am so impressed with what Cavan was able to do.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what happens next, and I think that says a lot, comma, and I'm sorry, Charles, I'm ruining it this time. This era is incredibly impressive, and were not for Light of the Jedi, this would be my favorite High Republic book. And they're neck and neck, and we haven't even done a roundtable yet. So
Yeah.
I like that your solution to not going over 30 seconds was to create a run-on sentence.
yeah, hey, Daniel Older can do it, so can I. At our interview.
All right, we got a 9.2, a 9.7. Wes, what do you think?
I'm gonna give this book a 9.4.
Nice.
Because we already knew most of the characters, right? So it was easy to follow along. I think Cavan did a wonderful job, just like when he was switching back between their short chapters, short chapters, you knew exactly where you were. But just with the 1 or 2 word titles right before the chapter was great. And
the technical makeup of the book, you're right, is something that I think gets overlooked. It's really crisp.
And I love the darkness. We got ourselves a dark book, and it ended in sorrow. And give me more of that, right?
Sex and death, man. The theme of this book.
Charles, what did you rate this as?
I will rate this as a 9.5. This is one of my
Wow.
favorite books that I've read in a very long time.
That's wonderful.
Star Wars or not. And it's for a lot of the same reasons y'all are saying. I love when books or stories get dark, right? I love the second chapter in trilogies, which is really what this is. The short chapters were great because it kept the momentum going. I was never sad to move on to whoever came up in the next chapter because I was really invested in every single person's story. So I cannot rave enough about this book, but
We're going to do it.
we're going to do it right now. So let's go ahead and launch into the character section of this book. But obviously there's so much for this roundtable that what I've decided to do is I'm going to read a couple of quotes that has to do with each character. And then I'm going to ask you one major question. And I tried to make it an important question about their journey in this novel, but then you guys run free. All right, go crazy. You talk about that character, say anything you want to say about that character, take the conversation where you will. And then when it's wrapping up, we'll move on to the next one.
Great.
Right.
We're going to fly on the sandballs of content.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Here's a GIF. Take it. Take it. All right, I'm good.
Crap.
Get off of me.
All right, guys. Well, who else could we start with other than Elzar Mann?
Yeah.
He's who Cavan Scott started this novel with, and it's who we're going to start this roundtable with. So first quote is here on page 223. It says, Elzar had been so full of himself, so supremely arrogant, that he really believed, that the disaster the Force had deigned to show him had been averted by his arrival on Valo, as if his mere presence had been enough to stop death running amok. He would never forgive himself, never allow himself a moment of peace. He didn't deserve it. All this blood, all this terror was on his hands, and it would never wash away. Then on page 243, our second quote here says, he dug deep, unleashed every emotion he had tried so hard to repress in the months since his vision, the anger and the fear. All at once, he was back on Starlight, his legs buckling, blood gushing from his nose, overwhelmed by what he'd seen. Lights strobing, screams ringing out, Stellan dead, Chancellor so dead, the council ravaged, entire planets on fire. He pushed further, minding the disappointment he'd felt when Avar pushed him away on Starlight, the embarrassment of her hand on his chest mixed with the equal, if not greater, blow of seeing Orbelin waddle out of the shuttle in her place. He'd felt so hurt that Stellan hadn't mentioned it to him, so out of the loop. His oldest friends, and yet neither had trusted him. Could he blame them? He'd neglected his duties, seeking out Samara's bed rather than remaining vigilant. It wasn't the sex. That meant nothing. It was the realization that he had let everyone down for a moment of pleasure. Emotions roiled around him, through him, in him, like a storm out at sea, powerful and dangerous. But he could control them, bend them to his will. He could use it all for good. He could put everything right. Elzar lashed out, his hand outstretched, his fingers spread wide. The force rushed through him like a wave, up into the air toward the falling island. Unstoppable, defiant. And so my question for you all about Elzar Mann is, do you question Mann's handling of his Force vision and in turn his current relationship with the Force?
I think Qui-Gon walked so Elzar Mann could run. This, like,
Interesting.
if you take all of this, because there's not as much Qui-Gon content, right? And Elzar Mann is, if not the main protagonist of this book, he is one of the mains. Like, Cavan clearly loves him and writes him as such. And I think that Qui-Gon's questioning of the rigidity of the council later on is preceded by Elzar Mann here, but in a more conceptual way, because we've noted there's not as many restrictions on the Jedi now. But, I mean, that passage you read, Charles, and that moment when he really embraces the dark side, like, it's freaky. Like, it is a scary moment, and I think it's written well, and I definitely think Elzar's fear of letting a vision come to pass puts him down a dark path, which is just wonderful storytelling, and I think he ends this book questioning at the least the Force, and at most, I think we might lose him in a future book to a dark path, but I loved his individual journey in this book.
I feel that the incident with Avar Kriss in Light of the Jedi has really struck something within Elzar. Like, he always reflects on that whenever he's kind of contemplating a decision. Something about Avar and him and her pushing him back. And I would just like to note that back on the Light of the Jedi roundtable, I pointed out that I think Elzar is going to turn to the dark side.
You did.
I was trying to find that clip before we went, but seeing Corey struggle with the weekly roundup, I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, I will also echo all that stuff. Is I think we're really setting up a wonderful storytelling like thing here with Elzar Mann being set up to really struggle with a lot of the ideology of the Jedi. And like my favorite story ever in all of Star Wars storytelling is Jason Solo's Fall to the Dark Side in the Legacy is it Legacy of the Jedi, I guess is what it's called, Legacy series of Legend. It was the first books I ever read. It's the first thing that ever hooked me into Star Wars storytelling, and like that really deep personal like I think this is what the Fall to the Dark Side looks like. Anakin is a weird outlier, I think, right? That's why he destroyed the entire Jedi, right? He was too old when he joined the Jedi Order. He had way too many attachments. He just totally like had a disregard for all the Jedi teachings. Like of course Anakin fell to the dark side, but Elzar Mann is different, right? Elzar Mann is like, he has guilt and struggle and like freely acknowledge his insight, right? In medicine, we say that a patient has insight when they have understanding about their own like medical ailments, right? Particularly in psychology and psychiatry, when people understand that they have mental illness, right? It's called insight. And Elzar has a lot of insight, and I think that is a recipe for disaster in Star Wars storytelling.
And I think I'm going to take that and also open up the other door, because who knows where this is going, right? And say that Elzar's ability to go to Stellan in this book and say, hey, you're one of, like, he and Avar And Elzar, Avar, Stellan very much have like the classic trio, like Harry, Ron, Hermione, like that. Their vibes, right? Growing up together, Elzar and Avar were the couple, and then they split, and all those things. But I love that he went to Stellan and said, hey, you're my best friend. You're a council member. I am feeling these things. I need help. And I think that's honestly, to go on a broader scale in 2021, is a kind of a beautiful show of tender masculinity of a guy saying, hey, I'm a very powerful Jedi. I'm wise. I'm going to my best friend who's also a very strong man and being like, dude, I need some help. I need to talk to you. And I love that story. And I think that could be the thing that stops him from going full dark because he's willing to admit it. And I also this is a thing I just want to say because I'm not sure where we're going to fit it in. The dude throws a lightsaber on the back of a dragon. And it is the coolest thing. I read this months ago, and it was the coolest thing I had ever read, and I couldn't share it with anyone. And seeing everyone witness that moment, I'm just so happy because I thought Loden's shoulder mounting the gun in Light of the Jedi and horseback was going to be epic. And then they're like, cool, but here's also a flying dragon in space.
That's the thing about Elzar Man is if he goes dark, it's going to be hard not to root for him.
He's so cool.
Yes,
right. He's the coolest character.
Indira says a comment when she sees Elzar Man riding the sandball and throwing his lightsaber, and I have it right here. She says Elzar Man was riding a dragon in the middle of a firefight because who else would it be?
Utini quote of the year. I will campaign for it for the Utinis. I wrote it down.
You should put it in there.
I did. It's in there.
But the relationship between Elzar and Stellan, I think, is cool, and it reminds me a lot of Anakin, Obi-Wan, but even more so that they're equals. So it's not master and Padawan or master and apprentice. It is like truly equals, and yet I have the same fear that we could see them on opposite sides of this conflict.
Yeah, that would break me if there's a Stellan Elzar duel in Phase 3.
Oh my God!
It's that you were my brother, Anakin, but you were literally my brother. Like,
but
we grew up together.
Listen, we have the recipe though, right? We have the Star Wars recipe, which is Force visions that you feel like you have to prevent. Like lust and power and sexuality. Like we have the things there that lead to the dark side. I mean, that's what we see in such rich storytelling in Star Wars. And I believe it's been literally 20 years since I've read the books, but I believe that Jason Solo did turn to Luke a little bit, like in the Legacy series. But it's still that master apprentice dynamic, right? Like you're saying, like it's different this time with Stellan and Elzar. It's different. So
that's the High Republic, right? It's different.
Yeah.
It's cool.
It's kind of that story that we're looking for because all these Jedi are on the straight and narrow. We've seen that throughout the movies, the straight and narrow Jedi, but we want to see the one that skews to the right a little bit or skews to the left. And then we're going to root for that person. And there's two different ways. It could be somebody from the Jedi Order that goes dark or somebody from the dark side that comes back to the light. We want to see that again. But that's always somebody that we root for, right? Somebody that's not the norm.
Yeah,
I totally
agree. If you get out of this book without rooting for Elzar, man, I don't get it. I mean, and it's funny because he was such a non-entity, really, in Light of the Jedi for the most part. Like he was in, but not really. And I was amazed by how quickly he rose up my board by the end of this book. 10 out of 10 character. Love him.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's talk about Elzar Man's buddy, who was a new character for us. One that Cavan Scott said he was pretty excited about. Not Samara. Ty Yorick is who I'm talking about. Ty Yorick, the monster hunter. And the first quote that I have for her is page 42. It says, Ty's rules were clear. No attachments, no complications. She hunted only animals, not sentient life forms, unless, of course, the sentient life was trying to kill her. And then on page 173, Stellan is he's thinking about Ty, and he says, all the time, the Thalothian stayed on the offensive. Everything about her screamed Jedi, from the way she held her lightsaber to the raw talent of her form. Although the snarl on her lips and frustration he felt at her core spoke of a life without discipline, far from the light. Was she dark side? No, they would have sensed that the moment they'd seen her. But if she had been trained, she had certainly veered from the path. And so my question about Ty is, will Ty return to the Jedi Order? And how do you think her connection with Elzar Man might shape that decision?
Man, that's a heavy question. Will she return to the Order? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, I think we could
think
see
so.
her. I think we could see her get some more teaching, perhaps, like through the series. But I don't think she's gonna formally return to the Order. Can you even return to the Order? Is that even possible? Like,
I think at
it's-
this point, probably
it's implied. I mean,
easier
it's
now than the prequels. That's for sure.
yeah, that's for sure. It's implied that she left as a Padawan, I assume, right? I mean, it has to
We
be.
have all the details, but we know who
Yeah.
her former master was, and that she's been away from the Order for a long
Yeah.
time. So
Yeah,
not
because there's
long
strategy.
Yeah,
I mean,
and-
she's a Witcher, right? I mean, she feels like a
Yes.
Witcher, straight
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Which I think
She
is
does.
fun, and I think she will continue that role. I think that I don't know because there's a lot of talk in the chat right now about Elzar and Ty's relationship and friendship. I think is cool. I think that Ty may tell Elzar once in a while, like, "Yo, chill out. You're fine, dude. Lighten up. Let's go get a drink." I think that might be a thing, but I don't see him being like, "No, come back to the cult. Like, why did you leave? It was fine." Like, they might call on
know.
her for backup, but I don't
could
know if she's
see-
ever going to be a full Jedi again.
I could also see Ty Yorick being the romantic interest that is like the inevitable destruction of Elzar Man. Also,
Isn't she a lesbian though? I thought she was gay.
is it? Is that
after.
implied?
I don't know.
I think she said you're not my type to somebody in that way.
She does say that to Elzar Man.
Yeah,
but
she's a lesbian.
I don't recall the details.
I'm pretty sure.
I don't know if that. I don't know that it necessarily states that. It does say she's not your type, but I don't know if that's as.
I made a note about it. Where's my notes app? I don't know.
That
I
is
think,
a
I,
good-
think
that
I
is-
literally
that
wrote
is a good-
space lesbian.
That is a good question.
So I was excited.
That is a good question. Like she very
Yeah, she's a
well could-
lesbian in the chat.
Okay, all
Oh.
right.
See,
There you go.
that ruins it for me because I thought her and Elzar Man reminded me of the Conehead scene with Connie Conehead and Connie Conehead and Chris Farley touching each other with those weird sex rings, and that's how
What
they could
the
feel
hell,
each other.
Wes?
Another one of
Wes,
Wes's.
I'm sorry to break your future of the of this here.
Who hasn't seen Coneheads? Come on, jeez.
I've not seen Conehead.
She could also be bisexual though. I mean
That's true. That's true.
She could be that. Also,
it's-
really quick point.
Yeah.
Can we just applaud the amount of sexuality that was explored in this book?
Oh my God.
Holy
All
crap!
over
There
the
was a
place.
lot. It was fantastic. Like it was done really, really well. I feel like
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
done well. That's the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just thrown in there.
No,
yeah,
it was great.
Yeah, it was certainly not an afterthought, and it felt like what true representation in Star Wars should feel like, and it was done really, really well. Cavan wrote it incredibly well.
But
Yeah, I mean
do
the
like
Chancellor's
to-
son and his like little
Yeah.
like proto boyfriend. I was like, oh guys,
That was
they just
great.
want to hang out. Yeah, John
know.
and Kit Rap. Thanks, Harish.
Yes,
like,
there was like a whole chapter dedicated to that. I mean,
Yeah,
it was really
great.
cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that a lot.
But I do like too that not all intimate relationships have to be romantic either.
That's true.
Right? And so
true.
I think that not Stellan, Elzar and Ty will have some sort of intimate connection moving forward, but not necessarily romantic.
Yeah.
But it could go one of either ways. Like Ty could show Elzar what it means to walk away from the Order and live
Yeah.
kind of according to your own rules, or it could go the other way, and Elzar could say, "Hey, you can still be a Jedi and not be Yoda." You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and I love that. I mean, they did the Pacific Rim drift. If any of you guys have seen Pacific Rim, when they go into the drift together and they see each other's memories, 100% what I got when they went on the sandballs. Because
man.
like,
Yeah.
Ty's like, get out of there. And like, I think that once you get into someone's mind to that level, you are bonded. You know, and I think that. That'll be really cool going forward.
Yeah,
Because she
it's
saw
like
him
a-
thinking of Avar. She's like, "Who is that?" And he's like,
Yeah,
"Shut up."
exactly. He's like, "Shut up." Yeah, I know. It's like I've said for years that to really get close to somebody, you either have to one just know them for a really, really long time, which is kind of the case in the four of us, right? We've known each
Yeah.
other for a while now, or you have to have that one really late night, like where you just stay up till like 4 a.m. and you're just all hanging out. Probably alcohol involved, and you just really get to know somebody. You go from stupid conversations to like really intimate stuff to like you really get to know people. It's fantastic, and that's what this is. And it's like
I think that's them.
it happened
Yeah.
instantly. It was fantastic. So
And,
I enjoyed it.
Ashley, yeah, and Ashley in the chat asked us a nice question. I want to get your guys' vibe off. I don't know if we're going to talk about her later because she's a little smaller of a character. But do we get the vibe that Elzar loved Samira or that it's just like a hookup? And I think I agree with Ashley. I think it's just a hookup. And I love that Elzar has like the love of his life, who I think is Avar. And then I love that now he has his like like you said, Corey, his late night bonded friend in Ty.
It was
he's got
weird.
his best friend Stellan, and then he's got his hookup Samara. Like, dude, has just a lot of people around him.
He does.
It's like Saved by the Bell.
Oh my God, he was saved by the bell as well later on. Bell Zettifar.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Someone
thought that's what you were talking
photoshopped that. Please, God, someone photoshopped that.
Oh my God. Holy crap.
Holy smoke.
But
I was kind of surprised that that Ty was so proficient in her lightsaber skills.
Yeah, me too.
Even like being away from the order and then practicing with other people with their same skill set. Yeah. And she was able to hold off Elzar, and she was able to hold off Stellan.
Yeah.
Pretty well.
You learn those on the streets.
I know. My favorite Ty moment in the whole book is when she hit Elzar in the face with that giant mace to get her lightsaber back. Yes! That was absolutely
Just
fantastic.
rung his bell.
Yes, he had literally just like used the dark side to commit genocide, right? And he's just like all emotionally raw, and just out of nowhere he gets hit in the face with his weapon.
Wham!
Just wham! He's like barely conscious. Like it almost knocks him out. Like he stumbles up and stuff. And it's just like. She's like, give me back my lightsaber, damn it.
And
oh my gosh.
There's that moment where he's like, please come with me. Like, we can work together. And she's like, nah.
I know. She's like
and
out.
Then comes back.
I know.
I'm going to be in a comic book in a couple weeks. Sorry. Monster at Temple Peak, August 11th. Also, I got to call you out. Ashley in the chat. She says, you know who wasn't saved by the bell?
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Ashley.
I'm remembering that. Ashley.
We need to do a whole episode around who each character from Say the Bell is. Like, who is Screech in this scenario? Who's AC Slater? I got to know.
I'll watch an episode of Saved by the Bell to do that because I've never seen it.
Oh my gosh.
Wasn't my show.
Okay. That's not important.
What about the Fresh Prince of Bel Air? Can we do that instead?
I like that too.
Yes,
I like
dude.
that too. Who's Jazz in this
He's on
scenario?
a damn roll right now, Eric. What the
young
hell's
Elzar
happening?
man is
Always gets
absolutely
thrown out of the
Jazz.
house. Always gets thrown out.
And he's getting thrown out of the house by who's Uncle Phil in this scenario? I don't know.
Estella Maru, maybe.
Uncle Phil's Uncle Phil's
Orville
low
in.
key a badass, right? So maybe it's like with the blade of Bordata, it's him.
Oh my God, Porter Angle.
It's Porter.
Porter Angle.
That's who.
like
That's
Uncle Phil.
Phil.
All right,
And there's two Aunt Vivs.
all right. All of you in the Discord, you know what to do. Discuss.
There are
Yes.
two Aunt Vivs.
These are not the questions I prepared. Let's move on to my favorite new Jedi. I think in this whole era, who is Stellan Gios.
Yeah. Why is he your favorite?
I love
Charles,
me some
who is he
Stellan.
like?
Because he's High Republic Obi-Wan. That's
Exactly.
why. 100% that's who he is.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Here are some quotes for Stellan. Page
Yeah, let's do it.
138 says, he knew what the others thought of him. Most of his close friends teased him often enough. Stellan Gios likes the sound of his own voice. Stellan Gios can't get enough of the limelight. All of that couldn't have been further from the truth. Elzar was right. Stellan had spent most of his career in temples, teaching, advising, coaxing. Elzar and Avar, they were the pioneers. They were the explorers. He was a mentor, not used to the public gaze, no matter how the order positioned him as the bright young thing on the council, an example to all. He didn't particularly like it, but if it was the will of the Force, who is he to argue or complain? Jedi were supposed to be an example, a guiding light. He should take the opportunity it was, the blessing. And then page 253, Stellan says, that's when he saw his master's face. Not physically, of course. Stellan could be blind for all he knew, but Rana Kant was there all the same. Her features creased with age, but kind, gentle, and so strong. Stellan wanted to go to the old woman, to throw his arms around her in a way he had never done when his master was alive. He wanted to be at peace in the way the old Jedi was at peace, one with the Force in a place beyond pain, beyond duty. No, her voice seemed to say, a Jedi is never beyond duty. I'm kind of laughing at this.
It's great.
A Jedi should always feel pain. The pain of those who are oppressed, the pain of the powerless. It's not your time, Stellan, but I'm with you always. And so Stellan in many ways is presented, I think, as the epitome of a Jedi.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm losing it. Both to us as readers and to the larger galaxy in this novel. He's kind of presented as what a Jedi is supposed to be. And the Chancellor even asked him to take point in the fight against the Nihil, yet he still has very classic Jedi struggles, like dealing with the death of his master. He even is secretly carrying her lightsaber around beneath his robes. And so my question is, do you think Stellan is the right choice to lead the Jedi in whatever is coming next?
Ooh. I mean, he's
I
not
think-
a bad choice.
I think he's a bad choice. I think it should be Ava or Chris, personally. I mean, I think Stellan is like, there was a line in the book. I can't remember what exactly he says, but he says something along the lines of he fell for the hubris of the Jedi, right? Like, that line is in this book. Like, he talks about the hubris of the Jedi, and like, I feel like he is a little bit woefully naive, kind of in the way that Obi-Wan is a little naive, right? Like, I mean, like the writing was on the wall with Anakin, right? Like, it really was. Yeah. I mean, it was all over the place, and Obi-Wan just like ignored it, I guess. And Stellan is kind of that guy for me. And you know, personally, I found Stellan to be the most annoying character in this book.
Oh, that fits for you.
There's my hot take. Yeah, I really did. It's like he is just so much on a pedestal, like, in my opinion, that like I think he's doomed to like lead the Jedi astray. I think they're gonna ignore like a huge evil presence that like he doesn't want to face. Like, he doesn't want to admit that it's there because he has that hubris, right? That like, of course the fair would be attacked. It's so obvious, right? But like, he never believed that it would happen. So.
Well, I think it's interesting. The Stellan that we get at the beginning of the book is like, he's dueling, right? And he's lecturing, and he kind of reminds me of you know, that first person you ever met that liked Star Wars, and you were like, oh, cool, and you accidentally talked for 45 minutes, and you're like, oh, sorry, I don't get to talk about this to anybody. Right. I was like, that's Stellan at the start, and then we get Stellan on the front of the out of print cover, who is the double lightsaber wielding, spinning, flanked by 2 Targons while dragons fly over Stellan. Yes, which is a great version of Stellan. And then at the end of the book, we get the Stellan whose best friend comes to him for counsel, and then the last line of the book is his, right? It's like he felt more afraid than he had in forever. Like, there's a reason that Cavan ends the book through Stellan's point of view. Yeah. And I think it's for exactly the reason, Corey and Charles, the way you wrote it, is that he is what the Jedi are supposed to be. And I think that he might be the point of view for us as the audience to view where the Jedi are as a whole as this initiative goes on. Because the Jedi were very glorious, and they were very, you know, they were epitomized, and then they were in battle, and now they're afraid. So I think that as a literary device, he's interesting. As a friend, he's really cool. And as a warrior, he's just super fun.
Yeah. So he
I like him a lot.
Basically, he went through those trials. He started as dueling, right, as doing a demonstration, and then went into war. So it went to that part of the trial, and then saw people die. And at the very end, he was sitting beside Chancellor So's bed, seeing her with an amputated leg, and was just like, "This is the destruction that I have seen. That may have been part of my doing, may not have been, but now I've changed. I'm changing Jedi at the moment." And
and he's the vision of Jedi, right? Like the cameras, the clip that they show after the fair, it's him holding the Chancellor. It's like galaxy wide, he is the Jedi holding them, and like he is now a figure. So now how is he going to deal with that going forward? That added pressure of kind of, you know, being, for lack of a better word, like a celebrity in a way, you know? Because he was the one that, in the galaxy's mind, saved the fair. So I love that ad as well.
Yeah, you imagine that image going across like CNN and Fox News of him holding this, basically holding the president or holding
of the galaxy.
Yeah, president of the galaxy in their arms, like almost like completely.
I don't know why, but I just pictured in my mind's eye Dwayne the Rock Johnson holding Joe Biden. I don't know why. That is what just happened in my mind. I don't know why it was The Rock, but that's what it was.
The next film in the White House Down movie series.
Oh my God. I will say, if we get to the point where The Rock is cast as Stellan Gios, we've gone too far. We have abandoned God's love, and we deserve what we get.
Charles, what do you think of Stellan? Because he is a lot like the Obi-Wan character, and you resonate with that a lot. So
I think there's something for me just about characters who understand what they think is the right thing to do, and they just go for it. Like, they might still make mistakes, absolutely, but they think that they know like this is the right thing to do in this situation, and I will literally sacrifice myself to do what's right in this situation. I find something about that so admirable. It's how I feel about Obi-Wan. I have very similar feelings about Stellan Gios. He almost died 10 times over just protecting.
Yeah.
You know,
How many times was he so exhausted by the Force he couldn't do anything else and then did something else? Like it happens over and over.
I know.
And that's being a Jedi, right? I mean, that's what we're taught. These stories are for kids to look up to and have heroes. It's like that's what you do.
Yeah, and I do get with Stellan in particular how it might feel like he's very like grandiose and like he is the guy in the limelight. But I will say he did not put himself there. Right. Like, it's true. He didn't position himself there. He is a fantastic Jedi and was elevated to a council member. And it's not his fault. It's really the Chancellor's fault that there's cameras flying around everywhere.
Real Dyro. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I totally get where that part comes from. I just find his journey and his dedication to just protect those around him to be incredibly admirable.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And before we get to the next character, I see where your segue is going. Blind Fates, I need to shame you for saying The Rock is actually going to get cast as Geo.
Oh my God.
That's
why not?
hilarious. Also leave. Like that is
The Vinti.
incredible. Beautiful done.
He'll be known as the Vinti.
And if you listen to the audiobook version, Mark Thompson made him sound a lot like Obi-Wan too.
Really?
Yes.
Like his voice was a lot.
Voices
like
are very
Obi-Wan.
similar. Yeah. Also, we haven't talked about it. He kills that on the audiobook. Mark Thompson, second best performance he's given behind Light of the Jedi for my money.
It makes me like out of breath listening to him do this because he like whenever they're doing the battle scenes, whatever, he's like, and I hit him hard like this, and I'm like, yeah. Read on, Wes. Read on.
Punch him.
Yes.
I really got to go back and listen to these audiobooks. If only Out of the Shadows wasn't coming out.
Tomorrow.
I got to start reading that. All right, but let's talk about a non-Jedi. Let's talk about the Chancellor herself, Lena So, because she had a huge part to play in this book. My first quote is from page 62, and it's So's speech about the importance of the Republic Fair. And she says, "The fair will go ahead, my friends. It must, not for the spectacle nor for the glory, but for the message it sends to the galaxy as a whole. The Nihil want us to run back to the core and cower in our beds. They want us to give up on our dreams and ambitions. That will not stand. Know this, the one thing we will not do, that we will never do, is live in fear of something that might happen with no discernible evidence that it will happen. If we halted our plans even for a second, then the Nihil or the Drangir or anyone else who conspires to disrupt our way of life would win without even firing a shot." And then on page 151, we have this quote: "Stellan looked over to the rostrum and saw Lena So watching the people, her people, streaming into the park with tears in her eyes. Despite everything, despite the dark days following the great disaster, despite being told the Republic Fair would never happen, she had proven everyone wrong. At that moment, Stellan believed the Chancellor could do anything. Centuries from now, the people of the galaxy would look back and see this day as a turning point, one that set the Republic's course for all time, and he was glad that the Jedi were at the heart of it, where they belonged." And then finally, page 337, So says, "The people deserve to see me. This is my fault. We both know what the media is saying, and if they aren't saying it, they should. I was warned, and yet I carried on as if we were untouchable. How many people died because of my arrogance?" And so that's my question. Is Lena So responsible for what happens at the Republic Fair, and why or why not?
Interesting.
Yes,
I love Lena So, first of all. I just want to say,
Yes.
like,
I love her. I'd vote for her.
I think Lena So is my favorite politician maybe ever in Star Wars. I really, really like her character. She's an excellent leader. She has freaking giant like jaguars that just walk around all the time.
Targons.
And
They're awesome.
She's such a badass. Like I really, really like her as a character. But I think I agree with her own line of thinking here. I think that to not, with this crazy crap that's going on with the great disaster and the Nihil, I think it's supremely arrogant not to expect the Star Wars World's Fair to be a huge target. Like, of course it would be.
Yeah,
like, it's so obvious. Like, I mean,
but I also love that that's the story. Like you're saying that what a great Star Wars story to see a politician that's like, we're going to do this thing. And I think also she had a great point, was like, we have great security. The security of the universe is here as well. And like the paths are an unpredictable thing. Like the force of the Nihil that had been away for a while. Like I get both sides of why she did and why she didn't do it. But that speech that you chose, Charles, is why she's so incredible. Because she's like, this is on me. And you know what? I'm not going to slink away. I'm going to say, yep, I'm going to learn from this. I got hurt.
Yeah,
we keep going.
She is not the Minister of Magic from the Harry Potter series.
No.
Right? Yes.
Oh my God! What a great comparison.
Yeah, seriously though, because like
back.
Exactly, like she has no denial whatsoever. She immediately recognizes that this is a horrible disaster, and she's in some ways partially responsible as the leader and the promoter of the event, right? And like that is supremely admirable, and we don't really see that from a lot of politicians in Star Wars.
Yeah, she owns up to her mistakes. I mean, having the fair a year after the great disaster was kind of quick, right?
It'd be like having the Olympics a year after a COVID breakout. Like, who in the hell would think of doing that?
But if it wasn't going to happen during the fair, it's going to happen some other time. So
that's true.
I mean, yes, it was her fault, but yes and no, because it's going to be her fault later on. It's going to be somebody else's fault. Something is going to be attacked because they know that the Nihil are still out there.
Yeah. Rob makes a good point in the chat too. At the end of the day, it's Markion's fault, the attack. Like we can say you can do your stuff, but that's a great way to think about it. I haven't thought about. And Harris makes a good point above that. I loved the way she dealt with the Rakasa of the Togruta, right?
What a shockingly wonderful character. Like to make it. Yes.
I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh my God, they were so good. Like randomly, we got some really cool history about the Togruta culture and background in military and politics. Like it was really, really cool addition. I didn't know I needed, but I totally did.
Yeah. And I love that she was a warrior queen that was like, all right, you fought, you were awesome, you fought great, let's kill these guys.
And we saw them become allies right there. So we know, at the end. 231 years BBY. That they became allies. Yeah. They didn't always like each other. So
cool.
And
go ahead, Charles.
I was just going to say, I have the quote right here just as an extra of what the Regassa said to Chancellor which I think speaks to what y'all are saying. It's not what happened, but how she reacted to it. And it says, as for Chancellor Lina So of the Republic, other leaders would have hidden themselves away at the first sign of danger, but not you. You stood by your people, pulling them out of the rubble with your own hands if need be, assuring them time and time again that all would be well. You protect those in need and weep for those that you cannot save. You are the spirit of the Republic, a spirit you share with my people.
Perfect way to put
it. She's kind of like Aragorn, when he becomes king, that she's like, I'll lead from the front. And I will unite all these people, and the elves respect me because I will actually like do my thing. And like, I just really I love that it is two strong leaders that we don't spend books and books being like, well, they're gonna bicker. They're like, nope. Game recognizes game. We got a universe to save. Let's go.
My friends, you bow to no one. We've really kept this whole Lord of the Rings references in the Living Force alive for a long time now.
Sorry, and I just refreshed all mine by seeing them all. So it's also I like Lina So take responsibility for what's happened.
Oh man.
Right. Well, let's talk about something that we've all been talking about. Who are we kidding? We've been having conversations about these two for quite some time over in the Discord. It's Bell Zettifar and Loden Greatstorm time. Yeah, as we're going to talk about them together as a pair, because I think that's the best way to discuss them here.
Agreed.
That's what they would want, I think.
That is what they would want. So page 238, Bell says, what was he, a Padawan who tried to cut himself off from the Force so others wouldn't see how much he was hurting? No, that wasn't it, was it? He hadn't shut himself off to hide away. He had done it because he was afraid of what he'd find if he stretched out into the Force, or rather what he'd miss, who he'd miss. But now he didn't have a choice, not if these people were going to live. And then the second quote I have is from page 388, and it says, Bell jumped, catching Loden in midair. He twisted as they slammed into the ground, absorbing the impact. Not that Loden seemed to weigh anything anymore. He had been so big, so imposing, and yet now he was little more than skin and bones. Bell drew a sharp breath as he saw what had happened to Loden's Laku. They were gone, leaving nothing but cauterized stumps. Look what they've done to you, Bell said, overcome with emotion. What they've taken. They took nothing, Loden told him, nothing that matters. The important thing is what they couldn't touch, what they could never erase. You and me, Bell, the way it's supposed to be.
God.
Oh,
So good. It's so good. I can't handle how good that is.
I'm tearing up right now. But genuinely, the relationship between Bell and Loden may be the most heartbreaking thing to happen in Star Wars since Anakin started going down a path that Padme couldn't follow. And
Yep.
Bell went from mourning his master to fighting tooth and nail to save him, only to once again lose him, this time seemingly for good. So what effect do you think this journey had on Bell throughout this book? And can you see any way possible he takes something positive from it?
I think maybe not for a bit. But can I selfishly add one more quote to your beautiful outline? Because this one stayed with me. This is from the out of print edition.
Same page numbers, guys.
Yeah, same page numbers. If
that's almost as bad as you like fondling all your lightsabers during our lightsaber episode.
I'm just saying, I'm reading from this, and it could be yours for free by following us and helping our metrics. All right.
Is this from the King James?
Yeah. This is from page 412, and it says, it's right after what you said, right? It said, the Twi'lek pushed himself up and ignited the weapon, smiling wickedly in the light of the blade. Now point me in the direction of trouble.
Yes.
That quote, I think, that is Loden Greatstorm, and I think that's what Bell takes it, because even at the end, even when there's nothing left in him, which I think this is why Loden, despite what happens at the end of this book, is still my favorite High Republic character. And I think that I wasn't angry also because I thought it was a great storytelling thing at the end. But that is what Bell takes. And that's what I think every single person that meets Loden takes from it, is that I am beaten. But if I have breath in me, if I can stand, there are people that need my help.
Yeah.
And I have to use everything I can. And the fact that he's like, and he smirked a little bit. And in the audiobook, I tweeted to Mark Thompson about it. Like, Mark Thompson's reading of that line is so... It gets me choked up literally thinking about it. Like, it's so beautiful and earnest because he's been tortured for a year straight. He's finally reunited, and his first thought is like, you know what? It's that same, I jumped out of my vector in Light of the Jedi. It's the same, well, what are we going to do today, Bell? Like, he's the same man. And I think that Bell, once he gets out of the shock, is then going to become that lineage. Is like, I'm still going to had that smirk in my face, that twinkle in my eye, because that's what Loden represented. And I think I definitely see that in Bell, despite the darkness that he plunges into at the end of the book.
Oh man.
Just say he's gonna take away. There's always a way, right? Nothing is ever impossible. So that's how he's gonna take Loden's legacy and use it as his own kind of way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Harris. Yes. Go, Charles. Go.
No, I was just gonna say, I want to point something out that I think is very heartbreaking, but something that struck me. Think back to Light of the Jedi. Think what it was that Bell was struggling with, right? He couldn't stop himself from falling. And Loden used to catch him. He would push him off stuff purposely, right? And catch him if Bell wasn't going to catch himself. And at the end of that novel, Bell is able to jump out of the vector and stop his own descent, right? In this book, he falls through the ceiling of the Innovator when the Innovator stops or starts sinking, and he stops his fall. So he proves, look, I learned, I carried this thing forward from the last book. And then at the end of the book, we see this role reversal where Loden Greatstorm is the weak one. He's the one who's falling, and it's Bell who catches him.
My God,
and I thought that was such a beautiful moment. And I can only think of how proud Loden Greatstorm must have been in the midst of being ecstatic just to be reunited with Bell. And I'm glad that they actually had that moment before Loden presumably dies.
Because they didn't have that. Their last moment together wasn't one of fear, because the way it was written, at least, like, you know, they don't have conversations about what is this, run, get away. Like, that's not the last thing between them. The last thing is, like you're saying, that pride moment. I'm so proud of my Padawan. God, I missed you. Let's one last time. Let's go find some trouble together. And that is how Bell gets to remember him. And like, even though it's so hard, that you're so right, that how much poetry happened. That's 2 books. It's just Light of the Jedi and Rising Storm.
Really is.
Like, how incredible that whole arc between the two of them gets to play out. And we're not even done with phase 1 yet to see where Bell eventually gets to carry that on forward. I think that the chat is wondering, like, does he turn dark from this? Does horrible things happen? I think Bell becomes one of the more Yoda-esque masters. That's after this book, that's my prediction, because I think he
infinitely wise and
yeah.
I mean, good Lord, Loden is such. I'm still like pretty in shock that they quote unquote killed him off, right? I mean, he's one of the defining members of like the High Republic. Yeah, the entire era, right? So I don't know, man. I don't know what to.
I thought it was good, like great structure to this second book, because after Light of the Jedi, we were all thinking, what's happening with Loden? What are they going to do with Loden in the next book? And we got maybe 2 chapters in the beginning, like in the beginning to the middle, and that was it until like the very end. So Cavan kept us wanting more and more and more and more all throughout. And then when we finally got it, we were like, yes, Loden breaks out, and then he dies.
Yeah, it's shocking.
That's great. It's great writing to bring out some crazy feelings that I didn't know I had just listening to an audiobook.
So many times in our Discord channel, in the Rising Storm channel, where everyone has been great putting spoiler tags, but about once or twice a week now, someone will be like, spoiler tag, oh my God, Loden Greatstorm, yes! And you can feel everyone in the channel go, no. It's like, it's only like 10 more pages. Like,
right.
It's near the end
right
of the book.
around the corner.
You think it's
like,
done.
it's right there.
And you see them, and no one comments, because you just wait. And then there's like, chat. No, God, wait, what? Like, it is.
I called in to work sick.
Yeah.
I need a day.
It's wonderfully done. That doesn't diminish that character.
I'm still shocked that it even happened. Like I sped read this book, right? So I like barely comprehended a lot of things that happened, and like I reread that chapter, like the whole chapter, like several times. Like, what the hell did I miss? Like, how did we arrive at this point? Like, what happened? Like, it's crazy. Loden and Bell are arguably the best master-apprentice relationship we've ever seen in the books, maybe. Like, I mean, I'm talking Legends and canon. Like, I can't think of a more iconic pair. Like, they're just so fantastic together. Like,
the only thing that hasn't been written is maybe the dust, it turns like the T-1000 in Terminator 2 and his parts come back together. We don't know. We don't know.
So,
we'll see. Real Claudia Gray's gonna write this one.
Real hardcore Snap vibes, right, from MCU, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we going to talk about the event itself? Or do you want to wait till the next?
Yeah, is that a question, Charles?
We have some overarching questions that have to do with what exactly
we'll wait on that.
happened there. Yeah.
Okay.
Great. We'll wait for that for next week.
I want to talk about that so bad. Like,
we'll get there, but I'll offer you something else up instead, and I think you'll enjoy talking about this too, because it's time to talk about the bad guys. It's time to talk about Marky and Roe. Okay.
I was just saying, Eric, read it.
Yeah. Page 365. Here's your first quote. This is from Roe. Such a fall from grace. In life, Asgar had never treated his son with kindness, never treated him with respect. It was somewhat fitting that, bleeding out in his quarters, he was forced to beg that same son for help. The first kick had dislocated the dying man's jaw. The second fractured his cheek. The third had probably killed him, but there was no way to be sure. As for the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and the seventh, well, they'd just been for fun. He'd stood there for an hour, not out of respect, but to commit the scene to memory. This was how he would remember Asgar Roe, not the larger-than-life despot who had made his life a misery, but a battered slab of meat.
So when does Eye of the Storm come out again? Like, come on, that's the coolest. A slab of meat.
Stood over his dead dad's body for an hour. Dude, like the smell probably happens at what, 20 minutes? Y'all are doctors. Let me know.
Right?
Can we just before you read the next quote, Charles, can we just say that Cavan Scott has a dark side?
Oh my God.
He is like reaching.
How do you think of this?
He reaches into the depth of something else with some of these villain stuff that he's writing. It's like it's violent, it's dark, it's sociopathic, and it is freaking phenomenal. I welcome it to Star Wars because it makes villains it makes them evil, right? It makes you hate them. Like you want to see their destruction, and it's such powerful storytelling. I love it.
Yep. And speaking of Mark Thompson stuff, that passage in Mark Thompson's voice with the first, you know what I'm talking about, Wes, the first kick and the second, it is like, I feel like he's like, all right, can we take 10? Like after you do that, you got to shake that off.
It gets faster, more intense as he goes through.
Yeah, it does. It's awesome. You did it. You said the thing. Harris makes a great point. Kevin's British. They're raised on extremely dark television.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
All right, and now let's look at this quote from page 394. And I should mention these page numbers are very approximate because I was reading this.
Oh, they're definitely wrong. I tried to follow along, so it's in the area.
It's a tablet. It's just very approximate. So Rose says, finally, it was time to put his prize to the test. The leveler had proved powerful enough while encased in ice. He could only imagine how glorious it would be now that it was free. He brought the two halves together, twisting them until they attached, forming a rod that hadn't been seen for generations. I knew it was going to get me. His father screamed, but Ro wasn't listening, not anymore. He could almost feel the leveler baying deep within the gaze, how hungry it would be after all those years, unable to move, frozen deep beneath Rystan. Now it would feed. Look at you all, he wheezed. So noble, so brave. You have no idea what's coming. And so Markian Ro has gone from, I think, a cold, calculating, villainous mastermind in light of the Jedi, and he's become this kind of increasingly violent, possibly unhinged guy who hears the voice of his dead father, who he kind of actually murdered, or at least helped murder. Has he actually lost his mind, or are things unfolding according to plan? And either way, do you think he's in danger of losing control of the Nihil?
I think all those statements are true.
Yeah, agreed. I totally agree. And also,
which is so exciting.
It is so exciting. It is so exciting. Also, first of all, Charles, we have to acknowledge, like we've all hung out with Cavan Scott a couple times now, and like the dude has a fantastic sense of humor. It is no mistake that he calls this thing a rod multiple times. Like it is absolutely a penis joke, and it's hilarious that Cavan Scott put this in the whole series. Like we all joked about it last time, but still, it's fantastic. Second of all, I think I kind of interpreted the whole voice in his head as like kind of the same thing that Loden was hearing, and it was Mari Santeca, right? Like, do you think there's a chance? Do you think there's a chance that that's what's happening? Like, what's her deal now? We didn't get literally any of her this entire book, right? So
I think she's still in stasis. I think that's
but
she had like a quick cameo just so we didn't forget about her. Like Loden's running out of the
still
ship.
Important.
Like, hey, what's up? Like,
exactly. But she's able to communicate like through the Force, I guess, right, with Loden. So why wouldn't she be able to haunt Ro?
Yeah, I like the idea of the Force like going into his mind, whether it's through Marie or whether it's through like the dark side itself of his father, kind of going into his mind, because we still don't know his race. Right, we still don't know his people, like what they are. We don't know his name, really. We remember that's not his actual name.
Yeah.
But I also like the idea of like, it's very Shakespearean. It's Hamlet seeing his father's ghost, right? It's like the shut up, and like literally there are moments where they're like, "What did you say?" He's like, "I wasn't talking to you."
Yeah,
and
right. He's talking to the doctor.
Like,
doctor
sorry.
Scene.
That's terrible. The big guy that has little like poison in his cuffs and electrocutes people and just has hallucinations now. Cool, awesome, good. Like. He is, I think, Caroline said it earlier in the chat. I'll say it. He's also my favorite Star Wars villain at this point. I think he is the most impactful.
Yeah,
I can't wait for Eye of the Storm. And if he hadn't worked, if they hadn't committed as hard to him as they did in these two books, I don't think the initiative will be as popular and as good as it is. But those two passages, Charles, were so great because they really show that even amidst chaos, he's like, yep, that's what I thought. You're hallucinating your father's voice. Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he's fazed by anything yet.
No, he's not. Now, I wanted to bring up Nosrak Yams, if I'm saying your username correctly, in the chat, mentioned that Marchion isn't Force sensitive, but is there any correlation with the Sith? The older woman he meets closer to the beginning of the book mentions that he has some kind of mark. Exar Kun Sith mark vibes?
Ooh, yeah. And she says, like, the faithful that are not the Jedi that give them a bad name. So they were definitely part of the
exactly.
Yeah, there's something there.
We definitely have some kind of big unknown thing still about Marchion. I don't think that we totally uncovered yet. Like this whole weird that the whole all the stuff with him going underground, that ice planet, and like getting the leveler and all that was all very odd to me.
And
like
the leveler was like in a shrine, as if the faithful went to the shrine, so they were like worshiping
an artifact,
or
I don't know.
He was frozen, pretty much. But so that was one of my favorite parts of the book. Is that really told us how evil Marchion Ro is? Yeah. So he goes and he meets his cousin, blood relative, maybe, which was the older woman. Yeah. And then has Udidus with him, who is a force sensitive.
Udidus,
it was like a force sensitive navigator, and brings them along. And
he's a Birdman.
Does not want to go with him. He's just like, man, I don't know. I don't want to go in there. It's like, she can barely fit through that crack in that wall right there. Why do I want to do that? So they finally get through there. And he's like, hey, Udi, can you feel anything? He's like, I don't feel a damn thing, man. And he was like, good. And then this like kills the guy. And then he kills his cousin immediately. And then like stands over him and was like, didn't feel nothing, huh? My step over.
I feel like after that, Marchion Ro went back to the Gates Electric and chucked out his journal and it was like, had a good day. Like, I feel like he's just like, he's not affected.
He's an absolute sicko, man. And I cannot wait for the Marchion Ro comic because it's going to be fantastic.
Yes.
Like,
I don't, and I'll say now, I don't need him to be redeemed. I really don't. I just need him to be a proper, Rob said it,
for him.
A proper fiend. He is a fiend.
Yes.
He's a
proper fiend. Yes.
I would actually feel cheated if he was redeemed. I can't see it fitting in with this character at all. Like, he's the embodiment of evil, which is crazy to say because so was Darth Vader, but like he's just so.
What if I said I was like really sorry or whatever?
What is
I love how evil he is.
He's always out of breath. That's what it is. He's got asthma or something.
Evil hearts, man.
All great Star Wars villains do.
He has a 50-year pack history. How exactly what the hell is Marchion's end goal here? What is
destruction of the Jedi?
Destruction of the Jedi. I think
is
that's
that
it as well.
The same thing we do every night, Pinky. Trying to take over the world.
No, I think he's got power. I think he's got influence. I think that something about that generational thing, about whatever they used to be. I think he is gonna, because I think his father tried to get power with the Nihil, and he's like, "You're weak. You forgot the mission." Because I think he's a zealot.
So going back to Yams in the chat's original question, do the Sith play any role here? Is this artifact, is the leveler? You know, we got to talk about the leveler next time, but like, is this Sith? Is this Sith stuff? It's always Sith stuff in Star Wars,
could
right?
Be. I'll say solid. Could be.
Yes, there is some evidence that I think we could be going that way, but we'll talk about it in overarching questions next week. But it's a great question.
What if at the end of Claudia Gray's novel, the end phase 1, he pulls out a Sith holocron and Bane pops out or something?
Oh my God! If they canonize somebody like Bane, or I know. Please.
I don't think they will because I like how separate it is. But like, nobody has like 50 of them.
The last, I know exactly. He's a huge collection. The last comment I will make about Marchion is that, like you were saying, that you love him as a character, Eric. I think this is the High Republic Initiative is proof that like a giant series works for villains, especially.
Yes.
Like I think there's something about long form storytelling with villains of like not ever quite figuring out their motivations that like is just really enticing. It makes you really sort of root for them in a weird way of like, what makes them tick? What is our end goal here? What is it? Sith? Is it some other kind of ancient power? Like, what the hell is motivating Marchion? I think it's incredible storytelling, and we've never been able to get this in canon because everything has been short form, right? We've got standalone novels and a couple of short series, but like, this is fantastic. Like, I don't know, are we going to get it in the comic, or is it just going to be? Is this going to be the end of all the High Republic in 5 years from now? Right? Like, I don't know, but it's awesome, and I really enjoy the long form storytelling when it comes to villains, especially.
Speaking of that, Cavan really added in those characters from the comics and from a couple of the young adult novels. So we saw Buckets of Blood was in there more than once.
Yeah, he was.
And
It's just so odd.
yeah,
He's so fun.
Vernestra was in there. Vern was in there a couple times. Like
Orbelin is in the High Republic comic. So if you want to see what he looks like.
I loved Orbelin. Orbelin was freaking great, man.
He was awesome.
And I got to do a quick correction. We did say the chat called us out. It was a little intentional. Bane has been canonized in Clone Wars by Mark Hamill voicing him in season 6. So yes, but for books canonization, which is where we were going, but just to say it. But yeah, I do love how much like Cavan is like, oh, who would fit here? Oh, another person I made up. Like, it's so cool.
Yeah, well, let's talk about 2 more villains to kind of round this out, this first part of the roundtable. Pan Ada, we've got to talk about because he actually was pretty important, I think.
The dude will not die.
Right?
I know, dude. Holy crap. Yeah, killed like 3 different times in this book alone.
9 lives. On page 322, Pan says he had led the largest Nihil attack in their long and torturous history. Pan Ada, not Markian Ro, for all his brave words about Lina So. While Pan had rained down terror upon the Republic, how exactly had the so-called Eye whiled away his time? By skulking in his relic of a ship on a rain-drenched world as far from the action as you could get. And then page 373 comes from towards the end. Pan closed his eyes for a moment, listening to the death throes of his ship, dreaming of the victory that should have been his. He had written his name across the galaxy, and now Ro would take the credit. Lorna at his side. So be it. Pan was dying. He had accepted that now, but he'd keep going until he had mounted both of their duplicitous heads on a spike. Yes. So do you feel bad at all for Pan Ada? And regardless, do you think that we will see his return in any meaningful way?
Dude. Pan sucks, man.
Yeah, no and
Bad
yes.
for him at all.
I know. I'm so ready. I'm so ready for him to be finally killed off. Like
Yeah. He went for the glory. He went like for the easiest way to get the glory, and he got what was coming to him pretty much.
Yeah.
But I don't know. What if he ends up taking over the Nihil and we just start eating our words?
I know
here
he becomes the big bad. Martian Ro gets killed off like immediately in the next.
Yeah, because apparently he can't die. He goes back to his home planet. They give him some kind of antidote for that injection that he got from Markian Ro. I mean,
I think he might be a source of info or something to the Republic or the Jedi now, because he has no loyalties now. He's like, I don't care about the Nihil. I just want to kill Ro and D. So like, save them for me. I could see that happening. I love that he's going to the homeworld of those freaking giant species. Like,
yeah. Also, that little offhand comment of like, I wonder if any of his family is alive. At least he could kill them off. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
Like whatever. Whatever that comment was fantastic.
Yeah,
oh my God.
He's a very fun character, but I love that those questions, like, because you're right. Usually we have to kind of feel bad or love a character a little more to like want them back. In Pan Ada, 100% I agree with you guys. Nope, zero sympathy, but dude is fun when he shows up.
Yeah, for sure.
There was this moment at the end of the book when he was trying to get to his secret escape pod, and there's a Bith member of his crew that basically runs up and is like, what are we gonna do? And he just punches him in the side of the head. And like, I don't know if it was just the twisted Markian Ro logic getting to me, but all I could think about is how satisfying would it feel to punch a giant Bith bobblehead, like just
because they're so big.
But at that moment, I was like,
he
yo, that
kills
was
that
like,
guy for no reason. It's just like, get out of my way.
And Mark Thompson made the Bith's voice like so timid too, so you felt bad for him. He was like, oh man, really?
Yeah. Oh man, Rob, great call. Pan Ada's gonna be the next Hux. He doesn't need to win as long as Markian Ro loses.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
I can see it.
I like Pan. I think his character like really brings an interesting dynamic, because Lorna D, who I think we're going to talk about in a few minutes here, is like she is much more of a mystery. I feel like you don't know whose side she's on, but Pan is very predictable. He's like the angry pirate lord, right? Like he's violent. He wants to go for the biggest treasure possible and just like go for it. And there's like it's terrible leadership. Like, it would absolutely be the destruction of the Nihil if he was in charge. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm very interested to see what's going to happen with this whole going back to his home planet thing. That could really be an interesting plot line for sure.
Yeah, Pan is that guy, like when you order an Uber pool and everyone starts to Venmo that never asks who paid because he's just like, nope, get in the Uber. I don't care. He's that guy. If you don't know that guy, you might be that guy. Sorry. Sorry, Pan-ators of the world.
I do think that we are gonna see him come back, and I kind of hope we do. He's like deliciously evil, and remember we talked about earlier. There's like so much High Republic left. There's years left. They're not just dropping these breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Pun intended, because his name's Pan, for no reason. Right?
I do want him to show up to Marchion Ro's throne one day and be like, I'm back. And Marchion to be like, haven't I killed you before? Or something.
Does Marchion think that Pan is dead? Like,
Yes.
Yeah, he does.
He does.
Because the
doesn't.
ship exploded and no one knew about the escape pod. So
Everyone thinks he's
true.
dead.
That's
yeah,
true.
Lorna
Yeah.
He's
thinks
dead.
he's dead.
That's correct. I
Well,
forgot.
I think he thought he was dead after he gave him those injections.
Yeah, that's really what
right?
I was getting at. Is
Yeah.
like,
Oh, he didn't know that Lorna saved him.
And
Yeah,
kissed
He
him,
never saw him again.
which made us think that Lorna was gonna work with Pan, and then she didn't.
dude, man.
It totally
God,
threw me for a
she's so
loop.
cool. Yeah, let's go to Lorna. This is
Let's
great.
talk about her. She's the last one. I really don't have any specific quotes for her because even though she played an important part in this book, there weren't any quotes that really caught my eye to kind of, I don't know, boil it down. But
Yeah, sure.
she really showed her cutthroat nature repeatedly in this novel. In what was left of she was the last Tempest runner standing with Pan's fight and Zetar's death. And so we know that she's about to be the titular character in August High Republic Tempest Runner, right? The audio drama coming from Cavan Scott. But where overall do you see her story going? Is she going to remain subservient to Marchion Ro, or is she going to amass enough power to possibly challenge him for leadership?
Ooh, Stephanie in the chat says it perfectly. She's playing 4D chess. I think that is it. I think Marchion Ro, I think, is the smartest person in the Nihil, and Lorna D is, if not even, right below. Because I think that she knew everything was going on. She knew she was going to betray Pan the first time he almost died, I think. And, we know in Tempest Runner that she gets captured by the Republic. So she's behind bars. And I think for any good audio drama to work, we need to find a little bit of redeeming morality. I think that's for a main character. Like Afra was a thief, but still had a love story and was still kind of good. So I think she'll have some redeeming qualities there for sure. But I think her end goal is still to run the Nihil. I don't know how I think she might meet some people in the Republic that are like, maybe I don't want to kill all these people. Maybe some of them have redeeming qualities that Ro didn't tell us about. But I think her eye on the prize is still taking the throne.
Yeah.
Yeah. We still don't really know her true motivation. I mean, maybe it's just death and destruction, but I feel like there's something there that we just don't know yet.
Yeah, which could have been structured that way. Could have been put like for us to guess and talk about it on a round table or with your friends, and then find out later. What they don't even let us know after Tempest Runner or even after Claudia Gray's book. It's in the second part.
Maybe
stage 2 where we
got
find
time.
out a little bit of it. Yeah, we definitely have time.
I mean, she's very much like a Harley Quinn-esque character. Like,
sure.
I really enjoy that she's somewhat of an organized chaos. Like, you never
great way.
especially because, when she kisses Pan at the end. I freaking love that. That was fantastic.
Pan says it was like kissing a viper.
Yes. Oh my God. What a line. Holy crap.
I learned a lot about myself in that moment. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I was like, oh, was it?
It's like kissing a viper. Like, man, what a hell of a line. Yeah, like seriously, she is just a scary loose cannon. Like when she shot that centipede dude's arms off.
Oh my God! Yes, and she's kept reloading. Bam, bam.
Yes.
Oh, no one came and followed you. Bam. Are you sure? Bam.
I know, she shot off like 3 of his arms. It was just like, why? Like, it's just, I love her. She is an incredible character, and I think Cavan did a phenomenal job of establishing her as a character before we get to Tempest Runner, because it's going to be so good.
Yo, Harris in the chat. One earlier we talked about in the chat. Someone said Mark Thompson's Lorna is very good. We've been a bit on him for some of his female voices in the past. This is Lorna is excellent. Harris is like Helena Bonham Carter is Lorna D, and I'm like, yo, get that Bellatrix Lestrange energy going.
Oh my God, yes, seriously.
Yeah. Speaking of voices, like if you're in the Nihil and you're in an audiobook form, Mark Thompson's doing it for you. You have to have an like over the top voice, no matter what it is. So like Panedo's like, "Where's Ro at?" And then like Zetar's like, "Nya, nya, 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 nya." And then like Lorna is just like, "Yes." But then you have the Jedi who just talk like normal people. Like, now we have like a Jedi that's just like,
Wait, we do it. It's buckets of blood.
That's right. That's what it is.
Buckets of blood. Oh
Yeah,
my
well,
God.
you know, when they put the helmet on, you still gotta figure out who's talking, and they got the filter, maybe. But
yeah, so that's
yeah.
a good point.
I love them though. Yeah, Lorna. When they first announced Tempest Runner, I was admittedly like, I mean, yeah, obviously I'm excited it's High Republic, but I was like, odd choice.
I know.
And then after this book, I'm like, odd choice.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know what her deal is. Like, I don't know what her motivations are,
No.
what she's gonna do. Like, it is completely up in the air, and that makes me really excited.
There was an interesting moment too at the very end when Belle and Loden are working together and they're trying to stop Lorna D from escaping from the planet, and Belle says, "We have to stop her. Like that's the leader of the Nile."
Oh yeah, and Loden doesn't
Loden
correct him.
says-
Really.
Oh yes,
Loden's like, "I thought," but then he like doesn't say.
Yeah.
And it really stuck out to me. I was like, this is not a random sentence. Like Belle thinks she's the leader of the Nile. I assume that's going to get back to the Jedi.
Yeah, they think
Mark
she's in
Monroe
charge.
is still, they don't really know what's going on with him. So there's something there.
Yeah, because Markian Rowe wasn't at the Valo attack, right?
Right,
I mean,
right.
like the only person that has seen him is now out of the picture. So he, like, we talked earlier. I love the dichotomy of Lena So leading from the front of the Republic and Markian Rowe always leading from the back of the Nile. And it's like, it shows you that's morality right there. He's like, he doesn't care when people die as long as I can take over and do more things. And Lena So is like, I will be seen defending my people.
Yeah.
Lorna D and Martian Rowe might be a pretty scary like power duo. Like,
Oh god,
for real.
that was giving me like sexy vampire couple vibes of like you walk into the castle, it's the two of them. They're like, we might kill you, or we might have a little fun roll around. Like, who's to say?
Yeah.
Maybe both.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of a better way to close out part one of the roundtable than sexy vampires. There's been a lot of random references tonight, but it's been a lot of fun. So
I do have to say that I don't know that I've ever been more excited to talk about a book. Like, in canon.
Awesome.
There's something about this particular book that just has, God, there's just so much interesting like plot lines that are just like, I feel like the guy in the meme with like all the things connected, and he's just like the aliens guy, you know what I'm talking about? Yes, that's how I feel like with this book. It's just Cavan needs to write so much more Star Wars. Like, the man can do no bad. Like, it's just he's such a
He's
talented...
already doing a lot. We love you, man.
yes.
Yeah.
Don't overwork the man.
That, guys, that's what I have for today. We got through characters perfectly. So part 2, we're going to do overarching questions. And then I'm not going to lie to y'all, I have 5+ pages of Easter eggs. I might have to pare it down to just my favorite ones. This book was chock full of them. So if you enjoy the Easter eggs, make sure you make it back to next week.
Yeah, and again, as we said at the top of the show, Charles, dude, I love this format of the characters. Great risk, great idea. And everyone in the chat, this has been our most active chatted episode we've ever had. I will say easily. We love you all being here. We hope you had a great time. I hope we see you all next week. We'll be here the same time to talk about part 2 of The Rising Storm. And again, if you need more of this discussion, head over to that Discord channel, 18e.com/Discord. Keep using those spoiler tags. Again, as we said, seeing everyone read this book at their own pace has been so rewarding and so great. If this is your kind of thing you love, you have a whole bunch of people that want to read these books with you, including Out of the Shadows, which does come out tomorrow. Keep it tuned to Utini for the written review and the video review to tell you all about Justina Ireland's latest that will round out Wave 2 of the High Republic. But my friends, on that'll do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, we want to say thank you for all of that support. It is the reason we can do everything we do on this channel and in this company. And a special thank you to Cheryl Bell, OK Endar, Patrick Ortiz, and Carl Sander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Jason Mitchell, Freddie C., and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command for their amazing support. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson. Corey is at Doc Star Wars MD. Charles Zetzi Hankel, and Wes is at Boss Wes. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, and Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. One last reminder, make sure you follow us on all social platforms and leave a comment on this video to win the Rising Storm Out of Print bundle up for the next 2 weeks. Thank you to Corey, Charles, and Wes for podcasting with me tonight. Thank you to all of you in the chat. We will see you next week. And as always, may the Force be with you.